But how do you get into that? Like, so what was the moment where you said, you know, this is what I want to do? Like, this is the dream that I want to chase. I want to sing opera. It's not like every day. I mean, I've heard of Pavarotti, but I mean, it's not often that you hear of an African-American male saying, I mean, I want to sing opera. So what was that moment that made you want to chase that dream?
When I was in high school, and I was always good. When I was a child, I was a soprano. I won some local competitions, and I won a scholarship to study privately at Juilliard when I graduated from high school. But where I really started and developed my talent was in church. We had a tremendous, at that time, excellent music department in Bethel AME Church in Springfield, Massachusetts. And I met, when I was 16 or 17, singers from New York, and they were all black. I remember I met this West Indian brother who was a bass baritone, and I'll never forget him because he was so good. And I met this little short black man with little short fingers, and they always said artists that played the organ and the piano had long fingers. He had short fingers, and he was fierce on the organ. And I never forgot it because, first of all, they were people of color who was they were exceptionally trained, and I was good. I mean, I had the talent, and I wanted to emulate those very early in my life role models, and I always wanted to sing. So I continued to compete. Even when I went to undergraduate school and then graduate school, I was still competing. And when I got accepted to UConn School of Social Work, I got accepted at Hart School of Music, which I didn't pursue because I was getting my graduate degree. And then I went on to law school and continued to sing on the side because we had all these different choral societies in Washington, D.C. and did it always part-time. But I continued to compete because I competed and was a semi-finalist in the Metropolitan Opera competition because I was trying to get an entree into the Met through their training program and only got to the second tier. So I continued to fall back on something else so I could eat. But I always pursued music. Always.
So one of the things I find interesting is that you had some like moments where you could have gone with music 100%, but you made choices to say, okay, well, I'm gonna also pursue an educational dream. One of the things I always try to emphasize when I'm talking about dream chasing is that it's not like there has to just be one thing that you're going after. So you kind of forked off. You were able to get a master's degree, but also continue to sing, which is, it sounds like is one of your loves.
Yeah.
And so what was that like to say, you know, when you were in the balance trying to figure out, should I go to the Hart School of Music or should I go pursue my master's degree?
One of the big issues with me was I tried to meet other black men who were in the field of music, and I met very few. And I also found out through the grapevine that the ones who were performing were primarily performing in Europe. And the opportunities in this country to pursue a career in the opera were slim. There were questions about, there are always questions about whether or not there are issues regarding someone's skin complexion when you're performing in the theater. To this day, there's always undercurrents. I mean, things have gotten better, but if you think about it, probably few people can name one black opera singer, male opera singer. There are women who've done very well, and there are many that come to mind immediately, but men, they're far and few between. So I was always worried about whether or not I could make a living singing, or whether or not I had to go somewhere else in order to make ends meet. It's a very competitive field, and in the arts, there's always a reason why you're not hired. They can always skirt around the fact of whether or not they want to hire you. And so it's very, very challenging. It's not impossible, but it's very challenging. There are a couple, there's one in particular I think about it. I think his last name is Owens, who's doing very well. He's a new brother, he's about 42. But even the works that he's performing in, someone is writing those operas for him, for his voice. He has an exceptional voice, but they're far and few between.
So we just talked about having a dream shaper, dream motivators, people in your life that are going to support your dream. Who are some of the people that, you know, throughout your life, chasing your dreams, were supportive in either educational or your dream to sing?
My mother, people in my church, my first voice teacher, Betty Jennings, my private teachers in Madame Fioravanti in Washington D.C. and Dr. Cordovana at Catholic University were all very supportive. Dr. Cordovana in particular, when I was studying at Catholic University privately, when I was working in D.C., always told me, he said, if I really wanted to do it, I could do it because I had the talent to do it. So they were all very supportive. And of course, for me, support finding work. I mean, singing in the Choral Art Society in D.C., working in Washington Opera in D.C., working in Maryland Opera, working in the Spoleto Festival, working at the Metropolitan Opera. Those were all opportunities, and they supported me because I found work. You know, a lot of people say they're artists, but if you can't get work, you're not an artist. You know, you're a struggling artist.
Yeah, well, yeah. So let me ask you this. So you pursued this dream of singing for, sounds like a good part of your life. Yeah. You've achieved your dream of some of the educational dreams that you had. Are there any specific dreams that, like right now, other than singing and, you know, work type things that you're pursuing right now? Is there something that, you know, that you think about every day, or, you know, multiple things? What are your dreams you're thinking about now?
Well, I always think about music. I mean, my goal is to have 4 major projects on a quarterly basis that I can do, because I want to do, because even though I'm older, the voice is stronger. I mean, a good bass baritone can go until they're in their 70s if they take good care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And there are things that I can do musically that at least gives me the entree of having an opportunity to do some major works. So I still work on auditions. Like this April, I'm going to do the second and third portions of Handel's Messiah, which is some very difficult music. And there's 2 or 3 very difficult arias in there that I'm working on. So that's something I'm looking forward to, because they're not performed very often, and they're very hard. So you got to do them well. If you can't do them well, then don't bother. I like to use as my motto a gentleman by the name, he's Welch. His name is Bryn Terfel, who is by far probably the finest bass baritone walking the face of the earth. And my voice has been compared to his, which is really a great compliment. But of course, he's at a much higher level, making a bunch of money.
In terms of work,
again, it's a good idea to just trying to, because I had to reflect. I just came back from vacation. I'm doing the work with more intensity. I was talking to my brother, and he says, you know, if you approach your work the way you approach your music, you'd be far more successful, which was a heck of a thing to say, because of the detail that I put in my music. So if I can look at whatever I do with more detail and with more energy, the productivity would be much better, much higher.
So one of the things you mentioned too, I mean, just kind of as a follow-up, how much time, and I mean, I guess you could speak as to pertains to work and your musical career, how much time does it take to prepare for the show that's coming up? How much time are you putting in the dreams that you have? How much time are you putting into it?
It's a great deal of time, because like the Messiah, I've done it before, but to look at the literature and make certain that I know the notes, and I basically do, understand the lyrics and what the writer, and this writer's Handel, was trying to convey to the audience. That takes time. I like to listen to different interpretations of the works. I have a very extensive collection, and I like to listen to different artists because they all have different nuances the way they interpret the music, and I learn from their interpretation. And then, of course, to sit down with probably a coach, a vocal coach, or a music teacher, and make certain I understand the literature and study it. I prefer, and it's better, to memorize the works, because when you're performing, you're not reading off a piece of music. You either know it or you don't, because sometimes your anxiety or tension kicks in, and I call it automatic pilot. If it's internal, you just go through it. If you're worried about the next word or the next note and you're reading it off a page, you're in trouble. And if you see the best artists, particularly in opera, they're not holding music. It's memorization. And that memorization is over and over again. Everybody has their own way of learning, but it's memorization. And you have to be comfortable in the notation, comfortable in the music. And that takes a lot of man hours.
And we talked about that, like, because, you know, with the poetry I do, like, you'll say you don't put enough time into it, you know, and so because I'll come and talk about how I did a show and I might have forgotten my own poem, and you say, well, you know, you're not practicing, you're just going in and just going, you know, trying to hope it turns out, but you really have to put in that time to hit each note and everything.
I was watching a PBS special recently, and it was this Asian young lady who actually won the international competition. And she had practiced so intensely, she had blisters on her fingers. And during that take, she was doing solfege, meaning that the variations of do, and she was actually singing the notation because she couldn't play it with her fingers because there was blisters on it. And it was amazing how intense she was, because it was clear to me that she knew the literature, but she was preparing for the competition. And of course, she won, and it was a major competition, a couple of years worth of scholarship money so she could continue pursuing her dream. And she was such a polished artist because she was so thorough in her preparation. You can take that to anything, law, music, this business. Detail is what separates the men from the boys.
Okay. So if I ask you, if I say the statement, never stop dreaming, what comes to mind?
Well, I think part of life is the next step, is a dream. I mean, once you don't live for anything and there's nothing for you to reach for, it's almost as if you're shutting down.
Okay, we've made it through another show. Wasn't that singer from Stewart amazing? If you'd like to get in contact with Stewart, shoot us an email at nevideo@gmail.com and we will make sure that he gets the message. Also, I'd just like to shout out all the people that help us make this show possible. Any Video, of course. I'd like to shout out my mom for helping put me together a little bit better. I'd like to shout out, you know, all the Dream Chasers out there. Check us out in the North End Agent, because every week we put a Dream Chaser in the North End Agent. Shout out to Yolanda Allen. We appreciate you putting us in the paper. Find us on Facebook. Dream Chasers, Never Stop Dreaming Group. Coming soon, we'll have our website up and a new email so you can reach out. If you're interested in being on the show, nevideo@gmail.com. Last but not least, Dream Chasers, never stop dreaming!